Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi, part of the M42 group, is a leader in smart hospital innovation, setting new standards for digital technology in healthcare. Through the deployment of AI in many advanced systems, Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi is transforming patient care and shaping the future of medicine. State-of-the-art medical technology is central to the future of healthcare, and at Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi, it is synonymous with world-class patient care. Tools such as the Da Vinci robotic surgical system, an integrated electronic medical record, automated systems, and AI-equipped imaging systems enable us to perform delicate, complex procedures with greater precision and minimal risks to patients, ultimately resulting in the best possible outcomes.
I think you'll all agree that really sets the scene. Complex surgery, minimal risk to the patients for the best outcomes. And we have the best speakers to really give us a wonderful insight into this. They are all representing the Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi institution. I'm going to introduce them by name. And when they're with me on stage, we're going to go into their specialist areas. So can I please introduce Dr. Shafik Sidani? First of all, a big round of applause to him. Dr. Usman Ahmed and Dr. Rabii Madi. Thank you so much. Please join me on stage. Take your seat, gentlemen, under your names and pick up your microphones and let's dig straight into this. Now, Dr. Rabii, thank you very much for volunteering off stage that you would be the person to set the scene for us. You've recently given a lecture into the history behind the subject matter we're talking about today, redefining the future of healthcare, complex care in the age of robotics and AI. Yesterday, day one, our first panel discussion, we were pleased to have Dr. George Pascal Haber, the CEO of Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi, with us. And of course, he has a specialist area which chimes with many of your specialist areas, which is robotic surgery. Dr. Rabii Madi, you are a urology consultant and co-director of robotic surgery at Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi. So the perfect gentleman to set the scene. Give us a little bit of a brief insight, the history of robotic surgery, how did it evolve, and where are we today?
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm very glad and excited to be here. So robotic surgery the idea of it started in the late 90s. For various reasons. You know, this is the 1990s. If we go back to the history of surgery, this is where traditional laparoscopy was at its peak. And at that time, two U.S. entities, the U.S. Army and the NASA, they were interested in developing telesurgery. Imagine that in the old days, 1990s. And the idea is to enable the surgeon to perform surgeries remotely. NASA, of course, they want to do surgeries from space, and the U.S. Army, they want the surgeon to do remotely and treat wounded surgeon at the battlefield rather than bringing the soldier to the hospital. So NASA and the U.S. Army, they supported researchers to develop telesurgery. And from that, in the early 2000s, those surgeons involved in those research and studies, they start to apply it in real world in the hospitals and trying to perform remote surgery within the same hospital.
I think that's super fascinating. And there's so many different health innovations that we can track over history, which originate either with that space mission or with military applications. And then they're actually applied to the wider population. They come downstream to all of us. So that's really super fascinating. Dr. Shafik, I'm going to bring you in now. So that's the history of robotic surgery. Why do we still need it now? What's happening in this day and age, and bring us up to speed with what's happening at Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi in particular?
Thank you for having us. Good opportunity. So, like Dr. Rabii was saying, how robotic surgery was actually developed, we had a lot of limitations in general surgery in terms of technical ability. The idea of laparoscopic or keyhole surgery, minimally, the first kind of iterants of minimally invasive surgery, was to be able to do big surgery on the inside with smaller incisions and a quicker recovery and fewer complications by doing it smaller on the outside. There were technical difficulties with laparoscopy, though, and keyhole surgeries that didn't allow us to apply that for all of our complex patients. Things like working in tight spaces, things that require more precision, things around riskier areas anatomically. And so when robotic surgery came about, that allowed us to apply minimally invasive surgery to more complex operations. And so things that we used to do with more conventional traditional surgery, where we'd have to open the abdomen or open the chest, things like big cancers or organ transplantation or complex chest surgery or abdominal wall reconstruction, we were able to accomplish that minimally invasively with the robot. So the robot gives you the steadiness, it gives you 3D vision, it gives you the ability to kind of translate your hand and finger motion into the instrument. And so you can work in tighter spaces, work in riskier areas anatomically, and do kind of more intricate procedures. So you can do more complex operations robotically and minimally invasively. So that leads to patients recovering quicker, doing better, less complications, et cetera. Now, last year, we've been doing robotic surgery at Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi since we opened. And we have all the expertise and the technology, et cetera.
Absolutely. And to speak on that point, your particular expertise, of course, you are the section head of colorectal surgery and the co-director of robotic surgery at Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, so last year, we were able to do more than 400 cases robotically. And it's not really about the number of cases we did, but to really benefit from the technology, we did a lot of complex operations. So lots of, complex cancers, kidney transplantation, where we're able to do both the donor and the recipient robotically. We've done complex lung surgery, and I'll let Dr. Usman speak about that. We've done the first robotic breast operation in the region. So we've really pushed the boundaries of robotic surgery at our hospital.
That's really super exciting to hear about that, pushing the boundaries. I want to unpack that further. I'm going to come back to you, Dr. Shafik, for that. I'm going to bring in Dr. Usman as you seamlessly line him up for us. Department Chair of Thoracic Surgery, Heart, Vascular and Thoracic Institute at the Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi. I love the fact that you all come with your distinct specialisms, and of course there's an overlapping theme here as well. In your particular area, bring us up to speed, how it's evolved and where we are today.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I talk about my special area, let me just highlight what these two experts talked about briefly. We live in a time where things are rapidly evolving and changing in healthcare. We're surrounded by technologies we would have never imagined exist in this time and space. And the same applies to complex surgeries, which all of us are here talking about. When you're really, really sick and you need a big operation, especially a heart and lung operation, if you think about it, you think of big incisions, a lot of pain, long recovery, and all those other factors that make you scared about the surgery, make the surgeries complicated. But we're in a very exciting time now where we can accomplish all those complex surgeries through tiny incisions. And it makes us very excited as surgeons when we think about the time that we live in. So just last year, first in the world, first in human, we witnessed that a heart transplant, which is one of the biggest operations we do in the body, was done with a robot, very close to us. We saw lung transplants being done robotically, and a lot of that technology and that expertise now exists in the UAE, where we're doing several organ transplants robotically. So patients have small incisions, they recover very quickly, and they go back to their families and their loved ones in no time. Soon you're going to hear about heart and lung transplant also being done robotically in the UAE, and that's something that we're working towards. But I'll just say it again, that we live in a very exciting time where things are evolving so rapidly, and we're very fortunate that we're surrounded by the experts and the technological expertise that allow us to do these really complex surgeries and take care of really sick patients with less morbidity.
Well, your excitement is certainly contagious, because if you're all excited, we're all excited. We want to hear more details. And before I come to my speakers again, just to follow up with you, Dr. Usman, you mentioned those world-class firsts in surgery, robotic surgery. What has changed for that technology to allow that? let's deep dive into some of the details. How does it work?
That's very astute. Are you sure you're not a robotic surgeon asking me that question?
I'm a fan clearly of your area.
So our technology is improving significantly, or has improved significantly, where we can actually not just see better, the cameras, the instruments, but the way we hold things, as opposed to the gentle human touch, the machine is a bit harsh. But we're moving towards a place where the machine is gentler than the human touch, which causes less damage and allows us to do surgery on very, very gentle, in a gentle fashion, and on delicate tissue with same, if not better, precision.
It seems like a no-brainer that we're at this stage, and that sounds like something we definitely would celebrate. So if we are at this milestone, the 10th anniversary of Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi, all these amazing achievements that are occurring here, how does this stand when we talk about it globally? How do we compare to the region? How do we compare to the global perspective on robotic surgeries? I can open that up to any one of you to answer.
Well, I'll kick off that I think we're very fortunate where we are geographically, that we get the best of the East and the West. We have the expertise from all over the world, and we have technological advances that come more easily to this part of the world as opposed to in other parts where all of us have worked previously. So this is the best amalgam that you can get, the best mixture of you can get of people and advanced technology. And this is the hot melting pot of where it's going to happen.
Absolutely. And in the message that you share with us there, Dr. Usman, it speaks to that opening video, complex surgery, but really reducing the risk to the patients and having those best outcomes. If I can invite Dr. Shafik and of course yourself, Dr. Rabii, to really speak to that, the patient-centric approach. Who would like to?
So, as my colleagues talked about overcoming the complexity of surgeries using the robotic technology, you see, so robotic surgery came as a bridge between open complex surgery that we used to do was through a big incision, and laparoscopic surgery where the patient will benefit from the small scar, small incision, but the limitation of it is the technology could not be performed for complex surgery. So this is where robotic surgery came, bringing the best of open surgery through the minimally invasive approach. So there are lots of features in robotic surgery that allows us to perform very complex surgeries. And this has been done in all specialties. In my specialty, in urology, as well as other specialties. Surgery that we couldn't really even dream of doing laparoscopically, now we are doing this with robotic surgery. Of course, our training is very important. The surgeon have to be trained really in doing those. Of course, robotic surgery is making our life easier, but doesn't mean it's a simple technology or technique to perform. We all went through years of training and experience in doing robotic surgeries in the US and other places before we were able to offer it to our patient in a safe way, because we have to be safe and we have to offer the patient what's good, not only in terms of the size of the incision, but of course to do complex surgery very safe and in a very rewarding way to both the surgeon and the patient.
Absolutely. And I think you made some really key points there, that kind of international expertise that being brought here to the UAE. It's a real recipe that the UAE has, the local talent as well as our international expertise. Dr. Shafik, I can bring you in on some of those points there. If you can unpack them further, what's happening at Cleveland Clinic and how we're looking ahead. Where's the future vision for robotic surgery?
So I think in terms of the future, you have to think of what are the challenges we have right now with robotic surgery. And I think, you know, all the entities involved in robotic surgery are working to address these challenges in the future. A few of the challenges are, one is primarily the cost. It's an expensive technology. And so it's not as available internationally, worldwide. You can, but it's not really cost effective to use it for some operations. So cost is a major issue, and I think in the future, with more and more industry getting into it, we have more companies making robots, I think hopefully the price will come down. Another challenge is what we call haptic feedback, which is, laparoscopically or open surgery, you can feel tissue, you can feel tension on tissue if you're harming tissue. With the robot, historically, we haven't been able to do that because you're working on a console and you don't have really that tactile feedback. There's newer technology now that gives you kind of more of that sensation. Now, people would argue that this actually makes you a better surgeon because you use visual cues to actually see tissue tension and kind of see how it feels. But technology is improving on that. And the last thing is what Dr. Rabii alluded to, which is the learning curve. So there's a significant learning curve in terms of a surgeon learning to do robotic surgery and to learn to do it safely. And so there is this, a good simulator for some of the robots available, which is good, but it's not perfect. So what we see in the future is more artificial intelligence getting involved in robotic surgery, where kind of the robot starts to learn what the surgeons are doing all around the world. So a surgeon learns from hundreds of cases or thousands of cases throughout their career. The robot will learn that many cases maybe in less than a day. And so then we're in that process of the robot learning, after which the robot can then teach, and surgeons can be kind of quicker on their learning curve, and then possibly automation of surgery. But I think we're quite a ways from that.
That's super fascinating. You say we're quite a way away from that. What are we talking, years? Are we talking?
Yeah, years.
Years,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
fantastic. And what about in the immediate future? What change do you foresee?
I think the phase right now is where the robot is starting to learn to do surgery from us. I think the phase after that will be that the surgeon starts helping amateur robotic surgeons to learn. And then the next stage after that would be automation. And we are seeing some kind of evidence of robots doing basic surgical technique like stitching, but in terms of would I let a robot operate on me? I think we're years away from
That's really interesting. And as you say, cutting edge and super exciting, as Dr. Usman was
saying. And the last thing I think maybe Dr. Rabii or Dr. Usman will talk about is remote surgery, which is what he was mentioning it was meant to be for.
Absolutely. Well, why not? Let's tee you up for that.
So, as I told you at the beginning, the idea of robotic surgery started with the concept of telesurgery or operating remotely. In the 90s, of course, we didn't have the capacity and the technology to do it. But right now, that dream 25 years ago now became actually very feasible, and we are seeing it. And one big potential of robotic surgery, as Dr. Shafik mentioned, because what's also coming now in the pipe of technology is our ability to perform remote surgeries. And I'm very excited about that possibility, where the surgeon, let's say at Cleveland Clinic here in Abu Dhabi, can perform a surgery on a patient in Africa or in Asia or in any other country in the world. And this is really fascinating. And it's now very actually doable. And there are early trials that have been done successfully in that regard. So this is really a very promising feature that's coming very, very soon.
That does sound very promising. Dr. Usman, I'm going to bring you in here.
I think it's important. The guys are holding back. I think it's very important to highlight the fact that you can pick any complex operation that is done today anywhere in the world robotically, and we do those surgeries here in Cleveland Clinic in Abu Dhabi. As we move forward, we're very privileged to have the expertise and the technological landscape that we live in, that we think we're going to stay on the forefront and cutting edge of these technologies. And I would invite all of you to stay in tune with the Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi and M42 media outputs. And you're going to see some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline soon.
Fantastic. I love that preview. And maybe we can tease a few more announcements from you while you're on stage with us. We have 5 minutes on the clock, so I'm going to open it up to the audience. Fantastic. We have a question here right at the front. May I please get a microphone to our very esteemed audience member? A microphone, please, or you can take mine. Oh, here we go. The gentleman's right behind you. And anybody else questions, have them ready. So introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. I'm Dr. Zahid. I'm a consultant gynecologist and an advanced laparoscopic surgeon. I work at Danat. So at the Nut, we do roughly about 300, at least 300 endometriosis cases a year, of which about 100 are incredibly complex. And they do require like this multidisciplinary approach, which I'm used to in England. You see, we've got colorectal urology input, colorectal input, and in fact, I see a fantastic synergy with the fact that we've got thoracic endometriosis, which covers the diaphragm, which can easily be handled by fantastic MDT that's sitting in front of me. Is that a possibility? And also, do you see tele-remote connection between the Nut and Cleveland, or can we just become a team because we're the same family, I suppose?
Absolutely, and that speaks to one of the key P's of M42, which is partnerships. Gentlemen, who would like to address that?
So nice to meet you. I was talking to Brian McCormick about potentially, collaborating on these endometriosis cases. I know he told me you guys do lots of complex endometriosis. I'm a colorectal surgeon, and we do some of these at Cleveland Clinic with some of our gynecologists, but it sounds like you guys have a high volume. These are perfect cases for robotic surgery. And honestly, we do a lot of complex rectal cancer and pelvic work, robotically, laparoscopically, open, whatever. But endometriosis cases, if you ask me, are some of the hardest cases when they're hard. And because the patients come and it's benign disease, the expectations are kind of higher and the risk threshold is much lower. And so these are really perfect cases for multidisciplinary care for endometriosis patients, potentially collaborating on these together would be nice.
Well, there you have it, our audience. You're hearing a new collaboration which is evolving as we speak. Thank you very much for that. Do you have a follow-up?
And the first thoracic endometriosis center in the Middle East, right?
I think it's very exciting that we're part of a healthcare landscape that is very much in line with technologically advanced, company also. The fact that we're all sitting here talking about taking care of patients better is very exciting. And we look forward to some of these collaborations. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that question. Anybody else got a question for our panelists? Okay, in which case, we've only got a few minutes on the clock. I want to give you all a chance to give your last call to action. Dr. Shafik kindly gave us some of the challenges earlier. You talked about the cost, you talked about training and learning from expertise, some of the limitations that robotic surgery still does face. So, because we have this very privileged platform here at the M42 main stage, each of your call to action, where do you want to have the critical steps taken to take robotic surgery, really scale it up and take it to the next stage? Please be ambitious. Dr. Shafik.
There's a lot, but I'll give one and I'll let my colleagues give others. For me, I think the biggest challenge right now, the technology is getting better. We're going to see it get better, and ultimately, robotic surgery will become more automated in the future, the distant future. But I think the main challenge right now in terms of implementation of robotic surgery and widespread application is cost. So we need to see costs come down to make it kind of a more sustainable offering we can give for patients.
So your call to action would be to address the cost,
correct,
and therefore it can be scaled up to a higher stage. And yourself, Dr. Usman?
Well, it's a pointed question, but I think it's very important and timely. I would say that in order to make healthcare better for the world, we're in a very unique place where we can train a lot of people, and access to this region of the world is a lot easier for them. We've seen in many of the examples that cost is very important, but not always the limiting factor in this part of the world. And I think if we can use our resources and our energy and expertise to train the future generations, that will make the healthcare setup a lot better for the years to come.
So that really speaks to the UAE's grander vision, which is being philanthropic.
Absolutely.
What's learnt here, iterated here, can be scaled up and universally applied worldwide as well.
I think it ties very well to robotic technology, for which you don't need to travel in person to do the surgery. You can do it remotely and train somebody at the same time.
I love it. The seamless links are brilliant. Thank you, Dr. Usman, and yourself, Dr. Rabii.
So I want to echo what my colleague said. The cost has been always an issue since it started. I remember 20 years ago, we've been always talking about the cost of robotic surgery. Now, luckily, right now, we have more than 150 companies that they are invested and they are offering robotic surgery. So I hope the cost will go down. Definitely getting access to the robot is an issue. We are fortunate in this country, and we are fortunate at the Cleveland Clinic to have access, and our patients, they have access to this amazing technology. But many countries and many patients outside UAE and in the world don't have access. So, and this part of the reason why I'm excited about telesurgery, because telesurgery robotically can offer those underprivileged patients or countries to get an access to this amazing technology.
Fantastic. It's been wonderful to have you all on our stage. I feel like that we've had a history lesson, taken us right to the beginning. We've set the scene in terms of what's happening at Cleveland Clinic right now on the 10th anniversary year, all the achievements, the milestones, and also cast our eye to the future. We've talked about the nuances, about some of the challenges, really grappled with them, and talked about some of the detail in terms of sneak previews of what's to come, and we've championed collaboration. So within half an hour, I think we've achieved a lot, gentlemen, but I would say, please welcome back to our stage at M42. Come back with your developments. We want to hear a lot more about what's happening at Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi, and we want to champion more futuristic innovation which can be scaled up and universally applied. Let's have a universe size applause to my wonderful speakers.